Hello, I'm making myself a cup of tea. You can hear my tea going on in the background, so bear with me while I get my teacup. Well, I have my teacup. I need my tea bag. I have all of my teas over here. Gotta love me some tea. Hello, singular friend. How are you? I haven't checked my email in a minute, but that's tried to throw it in the trash. And it can go in the trash. I haven't checked my email in a minute, but if you have expressed a desire to come to the movie night, I think we're actually going to end up doing that tonight at 8. So, if you have expressed a desire, tonight at 8 is the time I will give you. Tonight at 8. Consider and come. So I'm just going to wait till my tea finishes boiling. I don't want to think about what that is. I think it's probably just ginger. I'm doing a ginger lemon tea and I'm going to put some honey in it. Because I'm a honey fiend. I went through like 2 full bottles of honey this quarter. During class, it was pretty embarrassing. I drank a lot of honey. Okay, so let's read our quotes for today from How to Be an Antiracist. Okay. Hold on. Did I not star the second one? Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I. Maybe that quote is not a great quote. Now that I think about it, perhaps not. Perhaps not. Okay, here's one, and this one spoke to me because it was something that my mom did I not? Gosh darn it! Gosh darn it! Oh no, I didn't start the other one. Okay, so this one spoke to me because it was something that my mom used to say, and that I was always like, I don't know how to respond to that. So it's about voting, and my mom would always be like, oh, those people who didn't vote, like they're the problem. And it's not true. This may not be a great segue into the quote, but we'll find out. Okay. The fact that Black people delivered enough voters to win, but those voters were sent home or their votes spoiled. Racist ideas often lead to this silly psychological inversion where we blame the victimized race for their own victimization. So that was just a really cool thing. And I talked to my mom about that, and she's like, you're damn right. That's so true. So there's your first quote for today. Talk to your parents. Have a good time. Now you guys get to watch me make my teacup. I've been listening to the same like 4 Hosier? Hoser? She's good with the kids, folks. Somebody in the comments should yell at me eventually. I really like the song Movement. I think it's a little bit sexy. Yeah. And then basically I've just been listening to like the top Spotify ones, whatever they are. I put in too much honey yesterday, so I tried to do a little less today. I know, right? I need liquids. I'm liquid deprived. I was like, Patricia, why do I feel like I just saw you? And then I was like, oh, it's because I'm a dummy baby. Patricia and her sister, Natalia, do a very fun trivia every week. And it was very fun today. And because you did. And I accidentally made really, really hard film-related questions that I didn't think were going to be that hard. But then one of the girls was like, I've only seen 20 films in my life. And I was like, oh my God. It's so like interesting. Oh, fan service. That's cute. Well, you started it. Okay. Enough of me. Enough of me. All right, let's do this. I was like, is that my bra hanging out? It's not. Reader, it's not her bra. Okay, let's do this. The Song of the Lark, Part 1, Chapter 5. The children in the primary grades were sometimes required to make relief maps of Moonstone in sand. They had used the colored sands as the Navajo medicine men, oh boy, do in their sand mosaics. They could easily have indicated the social classifications of Moonstone, since these conformed to certain topographical boundaries and every child understood them perfectly. Tell us more, Willa. Oh! Recap! I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep forgetting to do recaps. Maybe it's because nothing happens. Yesterday, Thea went to get a music lesson with, oh boy, what's his name? Professor Wunsch. Excuse me. She went to get a music lesson with Professor Wunsch, who is a purported drunk, and everybody's really upset about, I should stir my tea. So he's a drunk, and everybody's upset about that because they're all good Christian people. And Professor Wunsch has the most wonderful garden. And Professor Wunsch is like, I want to die in this garden. And everyone else was like, us too. Us too, Professor Wunsch. So Professor Wunsch wants to die in the garden, and they talked about this painting that was made out of one of the sons of the woman who Professor Wunsch lives with is a tailor, and he had to, as like his thesis for his tailor project, his tailor college, he had to make a painting out of, I don't want to put that in there, but I have to. Such are the trials. Of the painting college, they make you make a painting out of cloth, which is really cool. So that's what happened yesterday. And Thea is apparently very, very talented. She's a very talented musician and singer. But right now she's only singing for the church, which is how many people get their starts. I'm really sorry. I'm just torched. Delicious. Somebody left. They got tired of watching me drink water. I don't blame you. Okay. Back to business. The main business street ran, of course, to the center of town. To the west of this street lived all the people who were, as Tilly Kronberg said, in society. Sylvester Street, the third parallel with Main Street on the west, was the longest in town, and best dwellings were built along it. Far out at the north end, nearly a mile from the courthouse in its cottonwood grove, was Dr. Archie's house, its big yard and garden surrounded by a white paling fence. The Methodist church was in the center of the town, facing the courthouse square. The Kronbergs lived half a mile south of the church, on the long street that stretched out like an arm to the depot settlement. This was the first street west of Main, and was built up only on one side. The preacher's house faced the preacher's house faced the backs of the brick, and up, sorry, there's like a child just like really screaming somewhere up my street. The preacher's house faced the backs of the brick and frame store buildings, and had a draw. It just says a draw, which is a noun that I haven't seen draw used as a noun before. A draw full of sunflowers and scrapes of old iron. The sidewalks which ran in front of the Kronberg's house was the one continuous sidewalk to the depot, and all the trainmen and roundhouse employees passed the front gate every time they came uptown. Thea and Mrs. Kronberg had many friends among the railroad men, who often paused to chat across the fence, and of one of these we shall have more to say. In the part of Moonstone that lay east of Main Street toward the deep ravine which farther south wound by Mexican Town, lived all the humbler citizens, the people who voted but did not run for office. Interesting. The houses were little story-and-a-half cottages with none of the fussy architectural efforts that marked those on Sylvester Street. They nestled modestly behind their cottonwoods and Virginia creeper. Their occupants had no social pretensions to keep up. There were no half-glass front doors with doorbells or formidable parlors behind closed shutters. Here, the old woman washed in the backyard, and the men sat in the front doorway and smoked their pipes. The people on Sylvester Street scarcely knew that this part of town existed. Thea liked to take Thor and her express wagon and explore these quiet, shady streets, where the people never tried to have lawns or to grow elms and pine trees, but let the native timber have its way and spread in luxuriance. They are sustainable kings and queens up there. She had many friends there, old women who gave her a yellow rose or a spray of trumpet vine and appeased Thor with a cookie. The way that cookie is spelled is Cooky. Or donut. They called Thea that preacher's girl, but the demonstrative was misplaced, for when they spoke of Mr. Kronberg, they called him the Methodist preacher. Dr. Archie was very proud of his yard and garden, which he worked himself. He was the only man in Moonstone who was successful at growing rambler roses, and his strawberries were famous. One morning when Thea was downtown on an errand, the doctor stopped her, took her hand, and went over her with a quizzical eye, as he nearly always did when they met. "You haven't been to my place to get any strawberries yet, Thea. They're at their best just now. Mrs. Archie doesn't know what to do with them all. Come up this afternoon. Just tell Mrs. Archie I sent you. Bring a big basket and pick till you are tired." When she got home, Thea told her mother that she didn't want to go because she didn't like Mrs. Archie. My mouth is so parched. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. I'm starting to wonder, because I feel like Willa, of course, is not writing this intentionally for Dr. Archie to be weird. But I'm wondering if she probably knew someone like this and was like, everybody says he's a good dude, but it's just I wonder if this is just she knew someone like this and didn't know what it was like. I don't know. I can't speculate. But there I was speculating. Okay. I forgot what Mrs. Kronberg's voice sounds like. She is certainly one queer woman, Mrs. Kronberg assented. But he's asked you so often. I guess you'll have to go this time. She won't bite you. After dinner, Thea took a basket, put Thor in his baby buggy, and set out for Dr. Archie's house at the other end of town. As soon as she came within sight of the house, she slackened her pace. She approached very slowly, stopping often to pick dandelions and sand peas for Thor to crush up in his fist. It was his wife's custom, as soon as Dr. Archie left the house in the morning, to shut all the doors and windows to keep the dust out, and to pull down the shades to keep the sun from fading the carpets. She thought, too, that neighbors were less likely to drop in if the house was closed up. She was one of those people who are stingy without motive or reason, even when they can gain nothing by it. She must have known that skimping the doctor in heat and food made him more extravagant than he would have been had she made him comfortable. He never came home for lunch because she gave him such miserable scraps and shreds of food. No matter how much milk he bought, he could never get thick cream for his strawberries. Even when he watched his wife lift it from the milk in smooth ivory-colored blankets, she managed, by some sleight of hand, to dilute it before it got to the breakfast table. The butcher's favorite joke was about the kind of meat he sold to Mrs. Archie. She felt no interest in food herself, and she hated to prepare it. She liked nothing better than to have Dr. Archie go to Denver for a few days. He often went chiefly because he was hungry, and to be left alone to eat canned salmon and to keep the house shut from morning until night. You know what? Let this woman live. She's living life how she wants it. Mrs. Archie would not have a servant because she said they ate too much and broke too much. She even said they knew too much. Good Lord, woman, get it together. I take back what I said in support of you. She used what mind she had in devising shifts to minimize her housework. She used to tell her neighbors that if there were no men, there would be no housework. When Mrs. Archie was first married, she had always been in panic or for fear she would have children. Where is my tissue? Just a mess today. I'm falling apart at the seams. Watching Sophie blow her nose. We love to see it. Do you like my little songs, Patricia? Okay. Now that her apprehensions on that score had grown paler, she was almost as much afraid of having dust in the house as she once had been of having children in it. If dust did not get in, it did not have to be got out, she said. She would take any amount of trouble to avoid trouble. Why, nobody knew. Certainly her husband had never been able to make her out. Such little mean natures are among the darkest and most baffling of created things. Damn! There is no law by which they can be explained. The ordinary incentives of pain and pleasure do not account for their behavior. They live like insects, absorbed in petty activities that seem to have nothing to do with any genial aspect of human life. Mrs. Archie, as Mrs. Kronberg said, liked to gad. She liked to have her house clean, empty, dark, locked, and to be out of it, anywhere. A church social, a prayer meeting, a 10-cent show. She seemed to have no preference. When there was nowhere else to go, she used to sit for hours in Mrs. Smiley's millinery and notion store, listening to the talk of the woman who came in, watching them while they tried on hats, blinking at them from her corner with her sharp, restless little eyes. She never talked much herself, but she knew all the gossip of the town, and she had a sharp ear for racy anecdotes, traveling men's stories, they used to be called in Moonstone. Her clicking laugh sounded like a typewriting machine in action, and for very pointed stories, she had a little screech. That's a great question, Patricia. I think the same thing. Why is it always like, the poor men having wives? So sad. Like, I don't know what this guy is complaining about. Okay. Mrs. Archie had been Mrs. Archie for only 6 years when she was Belle White. And when she was Belle White, she was one of the pretty girls in Lansing, Michigan. She had then a train of suitors. She could truly remind Archie that the boys hung around her. They did. They thought her very spirit and were always saying, "Oh, that Belle White, she's a case." She used to play heavy practical jokes which the young men thought very clever. Archie was considered the most promising young man in the young crowd, so Belle selected him. She let him see, made him fully aware that she had selected him, and Archie was the sort of boy who could not withstand such enlightenment. Belle's family were sorry for him. On his wedding day, her sisters looked at the big, handsome boy, he was 24, as he walked down the aisle with his bride, and then they looked at each other. His besotted confidence, his sober, radiant face, his gentle, protecting arm made them uncomfortable. Poor Dr. Archie. Nobody likes this man. He's why buddy. Okay. Well, they were glad he was going west at once to fulfill his doom where they would not be onlookers. Anyhow, they consoled themselves. They had got Belle off their hands. More than that, Belle seemed to have got herself off her hands. Her reputed prettiness might have been entirely the result of determination, a fierce little ambition. Once she had married, fastened herself on someone, come to port. It vanished like the ornamental plumage which drops away from some birds after the mating season. The one aggressive action of her life was over. She began to, oh, that's wild. I don't like that. She began to shrink in face and stature of her harem-scarum spirit? What is that? I feel like it can't possibly be correct. I'm going to look it up real quick, unless, Patricia, you beat me to it. Oh, Patricia, you sent me a text 4 minutes ago. What have I been pronouncing wrong today? Oh, I'm testing out some like tattoo ideas that I've had. So nobody panic. It's just a test. Oh, where did I go? Oh, I was looking up harem scarum. What? Okay. Ooh, it's fun. There's a musical called Harem Scarum starring, oh dear. Okay, it's a highly problematic musical. Uh, it seems to mean um, reckless and impetuous, but I feel like there's probably some sort of etymology that is more uh, interesting than that. So I'll look into that at some point. Okay, where did I go? Within a few years, she looked as small and mean as she was. Thor's chariot crept along. Thea approached the house unwillingly. She didn't care about the strawberries anyhow. She had uh, she had only come because she did not want to hurt Dr. Archie's feelings. You're a child. His feelings are not your responsibility. Don't teach girls that they have to respect others' feelings over their own. She not only disliked Mrs. Archie, but she was a little afraid of her. When Thea was getting the heavy baby buggy through the iron gate, she heard someone call, "Wait a minute!" And Mrs. Archie came running around the house from the back door, her apron over her head. She came to help with the buggy because she was afraid the wheels might scratch the paint off the gate posts. She was a skinny little woman with a great pile of fizzy light hair on a small head. Dr. Archie told me to come up and pick some strawberries, Thea muttered, wishing she had stayed at home. Mrs. Archie led the way to the back door, squinting and shading her eyes with her hands. "Wait a minute," she said again, when Thea explained why she had come. She went into her kitchen, and Thea sat down on the porch step. When Mrs. Archie reappeared, she carried in her hand a little wooden butter basket trimmed with fringed tissue paper, which she must have brought home from some church supper. "You'll have something to put them in," she said, ignoring the yawning willow basket which stood empty on Thor's feet. "You can have this, and you needn't mind about returning it. You know about not trampling the vines, don't you?" Mrs. Archie went back into the house, and Thea leaned over in the sand and picked a few strawberries. As soon as she was sure that she was not going to cry, she tossed the little basket into the big one and ran Thor's buggy along the gravel walk out of the gate as fast as she could push it. She was angry, and she was ashamed for Dr. Archie. "Girl, you don't have to worry about him. Just worry about you, baby girl." She could not help thinking how uncomfortable he would be if he ever found out about it. What? Little things like that were the ones that cut him most. She slunk home by the back way and again almost cried when she told her mother about it. Mrs. Kronberg was frying donuts for her husband's supper. Ooh, I want to fry some donuts. She laughed as she dropped a new lot into the hot grease. "It's wonderful the way some people are made," she declared, "but I wouldn't let that upset me if I was you. Think what it would be to live with it all the time. You'd look in the black pocketbook inside my handbook and take a dime and go downtown and get ice cream soda. That'll make you feel better. Thor can have a little of the ice cream if you feed it to him with a spoon. He likes it, don't you, son?" She stooped to wipe his chin. Thor was only 6 months old and inarticulate, but it was quite true that he liked ice cream. That's sweet. That's sweet. Oh Lord. Okay. There's some Spanish in the next chapter, so I'm gonna look ahead and make sure everything's all hunky-dory. All right, we stand Thor and only Thor. Thor is the only man we talk to. Okay, well, the next chapter is a little longer, so I'm gonna leave that for tomorrow at 3 when I will see you here again. And I'm going to drink the whole bottle of my water. I literally filled it up right before and it's already like halfway empty. I don't know what's going on with me. 90% of the time my body is like, we don't hydration. We don't need her. We've never heard of her. And the other 10% it's like, we gotta drink all the water. And that's where we are today. Patty, you can do one of those things where they're like, They do the countdown and then they just say 7 over and over and over again. uh, I've never done one of those. I just dribbled it down my face regardless, so that's enough of that. All right, I will stop making you watch me drink water, because I'm sure that's not what you want to do. And I can't seem to do it correctly anyways. So let's read our quote from How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, our closing quote. And then let's get the heck out of here. Okay. White supremacist is code for anti-human, a nuclear ideology that poses an existential threat to human existence. And that's that. Patricia, I cannot promise you that I will do that. Okay. I will see you all tomorrow here at 3 o'clock. Tomorrow is Saturday. Not that that changes anything for anyone. So I hope that you have a wonderful, safe, productive rest of your day, and that you continue to stay active, even though a lot of our feeds are returning to normal. Patricia today posted some awesome stuff about Juneteenth. Yes, happy Juneteenth, everybody. Do some research, donate some money, eat from a Black-owned restaurant if you're going to order out tonight. I don't have any. I have San Diego. I have a list of saved San Diego restaurants, but I don't have any LA saved yet. But I will when I go back to LA. So, thank you all for tuning in. Love you all deeply. I'm going to drink this whole thing of tea. Okie dokie. Goodbye. See you soon. Don't look at my really badly drawn potential wrist tattoos. Oh, thanks, Patricia. I'll steal it from you when I get back. Oh, everyone, Patricia's leaving the country in July, so sad react to that. Sad react. Bye, Patricia, and anyone else who's out there who I don't know. Goodbye. I gotta hit the end button. She's gotta hit the end button, folks.